Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 11th session of Rap Knowledge Live. Let's give 1 extra minute for people to keep joining the session, and we will start sharp 02. Okay, so I think we can get started. As I was saying, welcome to this 11th session of Rap Knowledge Live, and thanks for joining to this session. And as usual, for taking 1 hour of your lives to spend with us. We really appreciate that. This session is going to be on star rating for designs, and the mission is to learn how to use a tool to assess and improve road safety by evaluating road designs and identifying high-risk areas, ensuring safer infrastructure for all users. Our presenters today are going to be James Bradford, our Global Technical Director with IRAP, and Marko Sebrovic, joining from Croatia, the Senior Road Safety Engineer from AIRA. Just to do a quick housekeeping and jump right into the content, this webinar is going to be a 60, 70 minutes webinar long, and we will try to have a Q&A, as we usually do by the end of the session, but if it goes too long, I would appreciate if you can write your questions into the Q&A tool of the Zoom webinar, and we can take care of those questions while we are in the meeting. And if we are not able to respond while on the meeting, we will get back to you by through email. Okay. So if we get to the Q&A, I'll tell you how we will proceed on allocating the microphone usage to each of you. So without further ado, and to start with the valuable content of this webinar, I would like to give the floor to James. James, at this point, I think you can share screen. That's great. And that would be it from me for now. Thanks, James.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Franco. And I see that somebody's already said that they're struggling a little bit with the audio. Please do let us know if there are any further issues with the audio. And then we can help determine whether it's to our end or something, or your connection. So yeah, today, as Franco said, is about star rating for designs. So what I'll just do is a brief introduction of who we are as IRAP. You can, and you'll have seen this a number of different times, but our key focus is on road infrastructure and about how do we make sure that actually the road infrastructure creates a safe environment so that when users make mistakes or when there are issues, that the road actually protects them from fatal or serious injuries. So as IRAP, we're a small UK charity, and the way we work both in terms of building our tools and applying those tools around the world is, of course, through partnerships and empowering other people. And so that's why you can see there's quite a lot of data that's been collected using the star ratings on this map, and you can see some of those impressive impacts that have been happening. And the key thing to remember through all of this is it all relates back to roads being upgraded. And that happens through road engineers. And that's why star rating for designs is so important, because that's actually the phase through which a road will go to actually upgrade it. Now, hopefully, a lot of you will be aware of the Decade of Action on Road Safety and also the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. As part of this, linked to both of those, they brought out the UN Road Safety Performance Targets. Now, as I've already said, IRAP, we're very much interested in the infrastructure component of it, but of course, you've got to focus on all the other ones as well. So the ones we're interested with are Target 3 and Target 4. So Target 3 talks about new road designs and making those to a safe standard, or making those 3-star or better. So that's referring to the IRAP standard, IRAP 3 stars. Target 4 refers to travel on existing roads, so making sure that 75% of travel is on those high standard roads, or safe roads. And likewise, if you read through the expanded text, you'll also see that refers to the star rating. So how we address those as IRAP is very much through the road life cycle. So you can see here is the high level road cycle. So initially you plan what the road's going to be, you then do the different stage of designing it, you then build the road, open it, and then whilst it's open to the particularly long phase, which is this one, which you maintain it and you monitor it, and then of course you plan if any further works need to be done in terms of upgrading or whatnot. So as IRAP, hopefully a lot of you will be aware of the standard process by which data is collected to generate the star ratings, fatality estimations, and the investment plans. That very much focuses on these top 4 stages of the design life cycle. And of course, we've got AIRAP, where suppliers actually providing and working through other data sources to actually provide those road attributes. They don't need to be human collected. And of course, as with everything else with IRAP, we provide the tools freely available. So the processing for the star ratings, fatality estimations, and the investment plans is all done through VIDA. And then you can customize those investment plans in the route review tool part of VIDA. What we wanted to do is then provide tools for the other stages that you've got within the life cycle. So that's the early design and the detailed design. So that this can be used in different ways. So either if you've got a design on its own, without understanding what was there before, you can then collect the road features from it and generate the star ratings, etc. Or if you've already inspected the road or already assessed the road, is using that data then to actually inform what you're going to do design-wise, and then that can go back through the process. The nice one is once you've actually got your results coming out of the design, in addition to it showing you where the high risk locations would be in your design and the types of the levels of fatalities you're likely to get on the road, it can also show you an investment plan of things where you could potentially do to improve that road. So that's it. Whilst it's still in that CAD software or still on the drawing board, you can actually loop through this process a number of times to actually refine your design. So star rating designs is very much a overarching topic and it can be done in a number of different ways. So the tools and the ways it can be done is, if it's at a very, very high level, just to get that broad understanding of, is this cross-section a correct cross-section or a good risk, a low risk cross-section, you can be using a demonstrator. If you've got a slightly longer road, so more of a corridor, what we'll be releasing early next year, but piloting through the rest of this year, is something called the screening tool we used for doing corridor screening as well as network screening. So this is where you'll actually have your length of road, and you can then split it up into homogeneous sections or very similar sections and apply a road stereotype to those. So it's like using the demonstrator, but actually putting lengths on it. And then, say, for example, this middle one, this is what the main bit of it's like, but then we'll have some of them that have intersections at a certain frequency. And so this really suits the early stages of the design process. So this is like the exploratory work and then the early design phase. And then lastly, what we'll focus on today is the Star Rater for Design's web applications. This is the updated version of it. And that will actually help you walk through the road 100 meters by 100 meters, recording those road features, and then eventually be able to do a full star rating from them. So it's also worth bearing in mind that the level of resolution in the results they provide, where the Star Info Designs web tool will provide you the full star ratings where in detail for every 100 meters, whereas using the screening tool or the spot assessment will actually put them up at a more broader level. So it'll still give you star ratings, but there'll be that tolerance associated with them. If you're an advanced user of IRAP, certainly it's fully possible to take an upload file for the before conditions and then actually generate what changes you're going to make on that, or even build it afresh, all in Excel, and upload that straight to VIDA. And of course, it's worth noting that certainly IRAP, we're working with a number of the core CAD providers for this industry, and working with them to actually try and make sure the Star Info Designs is actually built within the CAD software. So as a road designer is going through that, making their choices of how they're going to do their road, it would come back saying, this is what the star rating would be, and this is what your fatality estimation would be. So let's look a little bit more detail. For those who are not aware of the Star Rating Demonstrator, it's a tool in VIDA. So as soon as you hit the VIDA dashboard, there's a button there that you can go to it. It allows you to select a starting point if that helps. So you might pick, say, a rural road. You can then look at the road features that have been selected for that rural road and then customize those. So you might pick one of them and say, okay, I don't think my roadside is a tree on the driver's side, on the left-hand side. So you could then open that up and say, okay, yeah, what is the relevant attribute? And then swap it through onto that one. So they might and say, actually, it's a lighting column. That would then update this. So you can see the lighting column, it would update the relevant star ratings for each of the road user groups. You can then dig in a bit more detail, looking at the different crash types that have been used to actually calculate the total star rating. And then you can also look at how would that road perform across different operating speeds. So you can zoom in on one of these and see just how that risk varies and what speed operating is appropriate to get a safe road. And it's worth looking at what's the road function versus what's the risk on the road. In terms of the screening tool, so this will be made available in the new year. But like I said, if you're interested in piloting this, please send me an email. We'd be delighted to run some tests on this just to make sure that it does actually work really nicely for everybody and will suit everybody's needs. So once you're inside it, you'll be able to select between a network screening or a corridor screening. So I'm going to focus very much on the corridor today. So once you open up that, you're allowed to put the information in about your road, so how long it is and what its name is, etc., and what country it's in. It will then create your road. So your road will be going down the page, and then you can put in the subsections of it. So you could pick this first section and say, okay, this is a rural bit, and it's so and so long, and then you can actually define a stereotype. So you'd click on that button there, and it will open you up the stereotype, so the coding window for it, and you'll be able to record all of those road features. Of course, it also allows you to load, if you've previously saved a stereotype or 100 meters in the demonstrator, you can certainly load that up within the screening tool. And what we're aiming to do is build this over time and start incorporating road standards within there. So if you're building it to a certain road standard, you could use that as your starting point. You can then, once you've got all those fixed attributes that are consistent throughout the 100 meters, start building in some of the ones that will vary. So this would be things like intersections. Of course, there won't be an intersection in every 100 meters, curves and property and pedestrian crossings. So you can select for those in there and how frequently they are going to be down the road. It's like their density. So here you can see I've separated this road into 3 different sections, with this beginning bit being 12 kilometers long, the middle bit being 10 kilometers long with 1 intersection inside it, And then the last bit is 8.5, and it will show you what the road will look like in terms of the star ratings. So this road, I haven't put any pedestrians or bicyclist flow on it, which is why it's just producing that vehicle occupant risk and that motorcycle risk. The next stage we're also planning to do with this is also put in fatality estimations. So we're just looking at how we can do that. So this is where you can actually stitch multiple hundreds meters together to reflect different homogeneous sections. And finally, the focus of where we're going to be talking about today is very much on the updated star rating for Design's web application. So I'll give you a demonstration of how that can be used and what ways that you could use that. Before we go into that, what I want to do is go through a case study of how Star Rating for Design's, the original web app, had been used already. So what I'm going to do is pass over to Marco at Era, and he'll talk you through the project they did or they facilitated in Croatia.
Perfect. Thank you, James. And I'm requesting remote control for the slides if possible.
Yep, you've got it.
Yeah, okay. So I will be talking about one case study of the A8 road, which is a road connecting one major tunnel that we have in Croatia. That was one of the, let's say, most dangerous sections in Croatia. And let me just, sorry, I skipped a slide. So yeah, going back. Perfect. Okay, so it is a current road that is approximately 12 kilometers and in length, and it's a single carriageway, one lane each direction, and it's very heavily used because it connects one of the most prominent areas for tourism in Croatia. And it's really in ADTs in the summer go well above 30,000. So, and you can imagine with a lot of trucks and everything, there was a lot of crashes, overtaking, even illegal overtakings, and the problems was occurring daily. So the concessionaire decided to build a second carriageway, of course, with having 2 lanes each carriageway, 4 lanes in total. And they did the initial design. And during the road safety audit process, which was mandatory because this is the part of the TEN-T network in Croatia, we also implemented the process of star rating for designs and came up with an initial design. So one of the good things we had here was that we had the IRAP survey before. So that's on the current state, on the how the road currently looks. And as you can see here, the danger features of this road really reflect in star rating. So we have like more than 54% of the road was rated as 1 star only, and another 27% rated as 2 star. So only a small percentage, somewhere around 16%, was above the 3 star benchmark that was set. And if we look even in the smoothed sections, for those of you who know IRAP, we have the raw and smoothed sections. So the smoothed section actually came up as a 1 star road for the whole section. Having that in mind, we also did the analysis for the motorcycles as well. It's a 1 star, and in the process of the RSA, we got the CAD designs from the designer, which were then assessed in terms of traditional road safety audit, but also with the star rating of designs app. So how we did that? So as you know, probably some of you are probably road designers, when you get designs of roads, you get a whole bunch of CAD files which hold different features of the roads. And sometimes what happens is that you don't have a single CAD file that covers all of the aspects of the road that should be assessed in the road safety audit. So what we did in the first exercise, we've actually merged those files together and converted them to PDF and to raster images so that we have the current layout in the raster format. And then this raster formats can easily be uploaded onto the star rating for designs app into respective folders and linked to the central lines that we can later on use to calculate star ratings in VIDA. Once we have the CAD files, you also link the individual 100-meter sections to a particular location in the CAD file. So the person who is doing the assessment can easily browse through the 100-meter sections, going back and forth, and actually coding the attributes based on the IRAP coding manual and the procedures which are present for calculating the star rating of designs. And just to give you an idea what the initial assessment was, so as you see here, the assessment that we got, the first one from the designers, still had almost 8% of 1-star sections. It had another 12% of the 2-star sections. And you probably ask yourself why, and that's because in road transport, in road design, we as designers, we tend to stick to the standards, and the standards as defined per individual countries or regions are usually the minimal standards. So designers usually try to get to the point where they meet all the requirements of the standards, but that does not necessarily mean that the road is absolutely safe. So we can do more than the standards, and that's exactly what we suggested in the following steps. So the VIDA investment plan came back to us with several recommendations. This is a very hilly terrain. It's very hard to build additional lanes and to fix the curvatures. So we basically selected only the countermeasures that are applicable at the location and try to do the improvement design based on what we can actually suggest through the RSA process to the designer to amend in the future. And you can see here the screenshot from the Safer Road Investment Plan from VIDA, where we have the recommendations to install 2.9 kilometers of guardrails and other things at the road. So as well as the numbers, as well as the money, we also had the locations where this would actually make an impact in terms of benefits in road safety. As we see in the approved design, we got rid of the 1-star sections. So we had 0 sections rated as 1-star, but we still had like 4%, almost 5% of the sections which stayed in a 2-star category. And that's mainly because the terrain constraints and the speed requirements set out by the ministry were still a bit too high so we could not fix them with the countermeasures that were applicable there. But still, it's a huge improvement. And in the end, you can see the comparison on this graph. So this was the left bar is showing the before situation. So the right bar is showing the initial design star ratings, and then the final bar, the right bar, is showing the improved design star ratings, which obviously was a big improvement. And just to say, this road is currently being constructed, and we really hope to see that in the future there will be improvements coming from this. Thank you so much, James. Back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Marko. So in addition to that, unfortunately, we don't have Dominic with us this week. But previously, like last week at the ITF World Congress, he was actually able to provide us with another example. So I'll very quickly go through this case study. So this was an extension to a road that had already part of it had already been built, but they needed to provide a much longer section to this. And this was over in Western Australia, so a road managed by Main Roads Western Australia. And so what they wanted to do is, because part of it was a greenfield site rather than a redesign, they wanted to go, how can we build that into the process? And likewise, how can they understand the improvements that are happening? And certainly Main Roads Western Australia do a lot with the star ratings. They've already run the biggest AI-RAP data collection project in the world so far, and they're finding certainly use for it. So one of the things that Arup did as part of this project is they actually did the star rating for designs of it to understand what the implications would be on the project. So this is what the road would. So this bit here was a road upgrade, and then this bit was a brand new greenfield. But also worth noting, this first bit was some of it, I think, was undivided. So it was about making the road was actually became a bit longer. So originally, you can see the roads that did previously exist, and they also did the feeder roads onto it. For vehicle occupants, there was a little bit of 4-star and a little bit of 3-star, but majority of it was 1 and 2-star. And for motorcyclists, a very similar kind of situation. Once they put their design through and recorded all the road features, it was then coming back out as majority 4-star for vehicle occupants with a few bits of 3-star. And then certainly a similar kind of situation for motorcyclists, but with majority 3-star and a few little bits of 2-star. And that certainly allowed them the ability to then dig into and understand what was going on there for the motorcyclists. Then in a similar situation, the before situation for pedestrians, you can see it was quite a mixed bag. Where they were present, it was reasonably safe in terms of there was some 4 and 5-star and then a few bits of 3-star. But of course, they weren't present on most of the road, and that was certainly one of the requirements of it. And the same kind of position for bicyclists. So once they had run their design through, they were actually able to confirm that the facilities they'd put in there for both bicyclists and pedestrians certainly were appropriate and provided a good step forward in terms of facilities. And in terms of understanding how that impacted the fatal serious injury fatal serious injuries, they calibrated the model for the existing road and then looked at what it would have impact it would have afterwards. And in terms on the road of fatal serious injuries per year, previously it was getting about 4.8 fatal serious injuries every year on average. And it was coming out saying that actually they would be able to reduce that down to 2.4. So a 50% reduction of fatal serious injuries on that upgraded road. But it's worth bearing in mind that road was going from part of it already being an existing road, but part of it being greenfield. So this is not even giving you the full picture, because that road went from 30 kilometres up to 51 kilometres. So when you take it into account, so you do the fatal serious injuries per kilometre per year, actually that's more like a 70% reduction. So straight away you can see there's a really, really good win there. And a really good way of actually celebrating the impact that the road design is going to be having and the work that the road designers would make. And so it's along these lines that as IRAP, we think it's really, really important to actually celebrate the road engineers and the work they put into it, because actually by designing a safe road, you're actually getting an absence of risk and an absence of fatal serious injuries happening. So it's very hard to actually see the tangible outcomes except in the crash data. And this is where the star ratings can be really powerful. And so as part of this work, the actual project was certified by IRAP and a certificate issued to Arup for it to recognise the work they put into it. But interestingly, certainly when Main Roads Western Australia were told by Arup that they've been awarded this certificate for the road, or the road has been awarded this certificate, Main Roads Western Australia were particularly interested and actually wanted a printed copy to be able to recognise the effort they'd done in that road and the good work they'd done. And so certainly I'd be saying is, wherever we are making these safer roads around the world as road engineers, what we've got to be doing is actually celebrating them as well. And Starry for Designs is one of those perfect ways of doing it. So the next stage of this webinar that I want to do is actually give you a demonstration of the new web app and one of the ways in which you can use it. So as with all of the IRAP tools, the way to get access to it is to originally go to VIDA, so go to vida.irap.org. If you don't already have an account, register an account. They're perfectly free to register for. And once you're in there, you'll be able to see the dashboard that looks like this. If you're a reader or an analyst account, you won't be able to see some of these buttons down here, especially the one we want to look at today, the Star River Designs 2. So what you need to do is actually click on the Upgrade Account button. I will log back in. And then you can click on the upgrade button. Of course, I'm a creator already, so I don't need to, but you can click on that. As with everything else, it's free to do. So you can then move it up to the analyst and then up to the creator level. And by clicking on that creator level, you'll be given a provisional creator account access. A sandbox will be generated for you to work in and produce data in. And you'll be able to see a number of these extra buttons like the Star River Designs web app. So let's have a look at what experience you'd get in there. So when you click on it, it'll open up in a new window, and then you'll be asked to log in. So the login is exactly the same as your Vida account. It's that one single account. And then you'll be able to expand your sandbox that's being created for you, and then find your relevant one, and eventually get down to a point where you can go through the region, the project, the program, the region, the project, and then be able to create yourself a data set. So what we'll do is we'll create a data set for us to explore today. So for this demonstration, I'm going to put in one that I've got, a file that's been very nicely shared with us today. Worth really bearing in mind is the file, the road design file that's been shared with us. This was purely at the concept stage of saying what would be feasible or not feasible. So it's before the stage you'd typically be using the Star River Designs at, but certainly use it as a way through and an understanding how you can utilize this tool. So that's gone away. That's now, you can see it whirling away. That's then creating that new data set. And of course, because this is within the Vida tool suite, it's actually it's working with Vida in the background to create that data set. So if you wanted to use it for other purposes, the data set, whether it's looking at results or whether it's customizing countermeasures on it or anything like that, all of that is possible because that data is centrally stored. So we'll open up that data set. So whilst that data set is opening, I can see that one person's asked a question about progress being made with Bentley Open Roads. So what I'd say is we're in NDAs with the different software providers, so we can't actually give you the details of exactly what progress has been made in those. But certainly at least one of those three suppliers, software suppliers that I put on the screen, is actually developing something in-house, an in-house plugin to make it compatible with star ratings. The other one worth doing is also one of the things that we have as IRAP is the IRAP, the IRF, and RACE, the FIA Foundation. It's a Safer Roads and Mobility Pledge. So this is where we're encouraging different organizations, different partners to actually pledge to support the road safety targets and the impacts that they're going to be having, especially Target 3 and Target 4. So what I'd say is this will then be used to actually highlight to some of those CAD manufacturers just how important building safety into their tools are, and actually building in the ability to star rate it within their tools. So that's another way in which you can actually encourage those CAD manufacturers to adopt them and actually understand just how big the demand is. So for this project that I'm going to take you through, the only thing that was provided to us, because it was a very early stage, was just an overarching plan of roughly where the new alignments would go and how the roads would be changed. So from that, what we used is we used that plan to actually generate center lines for the road network and the changes that were being made happening. So first off, what I'm going to do is put it into miles per hour, because that's what we work in the UK. And so in this case, because we were creating those roads off the design plan, what we would do is we will draw new center lines. But if you already have those center lines created, whether they're already in VEDA or already in an upload file, you could use that. Or if you've got them in, say, a shape file or a KML file, a mapping file like that, you could also import your geometry that way. And that would certainly make that process a lot easier and a lot quicker for you. Because we don't actually know where we're going to draw those roads at the moment, the first thing we're going to do in this case is actually import that design plan and overlay it on the map so we can trace over it. So the way we do that is actually by pulling it in as a layer. So you can have lots of different layer types. You can have vector layers, and then you can also have raster layers, those are images, or you can use some of the web hosting geo services or the formats that are used and connect it to those services. So in this case, we'll just use a plain image file. So I will select that file. In this case, we're going to use the medium option. They did lots of different exploratory options in terms of what could be built there. And you can change that layer name if you want to. So if you had multiple layers going in there that overlapped or didn't overlap, you can upload those with different names. So you can see it's gone in there. It's now starting to process. To see how it's progressing in terms of that, you can refresh the page. You can see it's already ready now for georeferencing. So this is where we're actually going to have the design on one side of the road, on one side of the screen, and align it with the map on the other. So this is one of the UK motorways near Liverpool. So if we zoom in on it, you can see that it's starting to look very, very similar, where you've got the existing roads here and a few different features that you can see aligning on that. So what we're going to do is actually connect these together by actually putting geo points on both of those. So here you can see a building on the design plan, and you can see exactly the same building and on the Google Earth map. So we'll click on add a new point, pop it in the middle on both ones. And then we'll find another location. So I know that there's some kind of farm over here where the buildings are in both of those. And we can then pick a similar point. So I'll pick the top corner of this one building here. And then click on it here as well. And then I know that there's another one that I can utilize down here. So you'll have to explore your plans to find relevant locations where you can actually join them together. As you can see, their corner here lines up quite nicely with this corner here. So now we've got 3 points, and note that I've been careful to actually put them as wide apart as possible, and also to try and put them as a triangle. You can put even more points if you want that even more accuracy in there in terms of how it overlays it on the map and how it stretches it to fit. So we're now going to, so what this is doing is now looking at those points and working out how it can then stretch those. So whilst it's doing that, we can see a number of questions coming out. So one of the earlier ones was about Mapillary. So certainly within the Star-If Designs web app, as soon as you've uploaded your video data into Mapillary and they've approved it to be visible, it should be visible within the Star-If Designs web app. So you'll be able to click on it and understand and see those images you've already collected. So let's see how well we did in terms of overlaying that map. So, sorry, the plan over the map. So this down here, you can make it transparent, so you can be looking at the overlap and you can be seeing we did a reasonable job in terms of overlaying. It's a few meters out in places, but on the whole, it's this phase of the design process. So what we're going to do now is go back to the GIS view rather than layers view. And you can see that map has now appeared as a layer. So you can go back to the layers, and then to help us give us that little bit of context, we can make that transparent. If slightly transparent, if you've got multiple different layers, and ones they'll appear down here, and you can select those. And of course, any other kind of layers that you want to utilize, like any of the base layers, whether it's a satellite image or anything else, you can use those as well. So now we've got that in there, what we can do is actually go in there and create our geometry. I'm doing this very much, like I said before, because we didn't get any geometry with this because it was an early design phase. And what we're going to do is pop it in there for two different roads. One is the Lodge Lane, and the other one is the existing road, the M6. So we'll do that by clicking on Add New Road, Draw a Line. That now gives us this toolbar. It should be familiar. It's very similar to a lot of GIS platforms. And we can use that to then add in different road geometry. So here we're going to click on the road. And of course, you could zoom in round corners if you want to get it more accurate. I'm being a bit quick and inaccurate here. If you want to pan and move around the screen, you can do that by actually pressing the space button and then clicking on the screen and moving around. And of course, longer straight sections, you can do that. I'm going to stop that line there rather than going all the way around. And to close the lines, you just double click and then we can save that line. What I'll also do is pop in another one for a little bit of the M6 to give you an idea of some of the features. And so that's that one created. So now that we've created our two bits of geometry, we can close out of the edit geometry feature. And note that you can do other things. So if you got your geometry slightly wrong, there are editing functions in there. There's measurement functions and whatnot. So we're trying to add the toolbox that would certainly help you. Now we've got those two geometries in there, what we want to do is convert them into full roads within the system and then segment them into 100 meters. So to do that, you'll click on the road. It'll bring up the box for you to populate. So this is Lodge Lane. And we'll just have that section 1 and we'll make it undivided. So save that. And I'll just add those because I've already created them elsewhere in the system, so it's confusing it a bit. So that's in there now, and then we can actually divide that into 100-meter chunks. So we'll say, yep, divide it into 100-meter chunks. And that's going through that process, and you can see it starting to, yep, there it's got the Lodge Lane, the relevant section, and the relevant carriageway in there. Now let's do that for the other road. So this is the M6. We'll do this just as an example. And we'll do it as southbound example. Note in the UK, we drive on the left side of the road, so which is why I've called it southbound. So now we can save that road and then convert it into 100 meters. And you can see whilst I've done that, it's just refreshed the map and you can see those 100 meters that have popped in there for the first example. The next stage you would go through is actually adding in any other data for any other design files you've got. So you can open up the design files And then if you had cross sections, if you had local zoom in or anything like that, you can actually add those files into there. So you just use this one example file. And what it'll do is it'll actually associate that image with the relevant sections that you've selected, the 100-meter sections. So you can see here, now we've got one design file associated with it. And so as we were editing that 100 meters, it would make that available. In this case, because we only have that plan view, we'd have to look at the plan and say, actually, how is the road being constructed? What's it likely to do? Make some assumptions. But of course, as a road designer, you know what you're planning for that road. So it'd be a lot easier to put those in there. If you didn't have those and you're somebody coming out separately and wanting to know, well, what should I code it as? Often if it's joining onto another road, that can be used as your cross-reference for it. And the way we can do this, so I'll do this on the M6, is you can see what's already there by either pulling up the Google Street View imagery for that relevant location. At the moment, I know that it's not working properly for this 100 meters that I've just selected. But the nice thing is you can also open up the mapillary. So when you click on that, what that does is it shows you all the different routes that people have driven down the road with mapillary data. And then you can select the one that's relevant. So we'll select this one. And it'll open up the relevant mapillary file. And so you can see that one there. In this case, it's actually the camera going backwards. So what you might want to go is, well, should we select a different road race? Maybe this one will give us a better image. If you've uploaded your data, it will be visible. So I'm going to now hide off these mapillary lines so I can see that the plan a lot better. You could then go down that road recording the relevant road features for each 100 meters. What we'd recommend that you do is actually record what I'd call is like a default set of attributes for the whole road section. She might go down there saying, typically this road is 3 lanes. Typically this road has a paved shoulder. So you can see that on the one going the other direction. Likewise, it's got lighting columns. So you'd put all those relevant features in there. And of course, don't do live demonstrations because they never work as well as you'd hope them to. There we go. So you'd put in those relevant features within there, clicking all the buttons that were appropriate across all of the different tabs. And then once you'd made those changes, those buttons will be highlighted in orange, orange rings around them. You'd then code all of the tabs, all of these tabs, to all of the 100-meter segments. So this has given you that base you can work from rather than having to put in every single attribute, every single 100 meters. And then you can go back to the beginning of the road and then start putting in the changes. So like this 100 meters here and this one here, you might go in and say, well, I can clearly see there's curvature there. So I'm going to record that relevant. So you go down to that 100 meters. I'm going to record that relevant thing and then save those changes. And you go through that whole process, recording it again and again, any changes that you're seeing within there. Once you've got to the end of the end of recording all the road features, you can then go back up to the top and submit your data for quality assurance if you're happy with it. What we'll also do is, it's not currently enabled, but we'll also allow you to do is generate those star ratings for, even if it hasn't been quality assured. At the moment, it needs to be quality assured, but in due course, that will be available for you to be able to do, like, understand provisional ones. So even if there are errors in the data, it gives you that early quick look and give you that hint that maybe you have coded something wrong if it's not a result that you were expecting. So you can submit that data quality assurance. Somebody will go through it, look at it carefully and say, yeah, is this appropriate? Is this the right coding? And then after that, you'll be able to generate the star ratings and view the results in VIDA. In the meantime, until we've got that changed, what you can also do is export the data to CSV. By that, it'll just create you an upload file for VIDA that you can go in there, correct any mistakes that you've made actually in that Excel file, and then upload that straight into VIDA. And then the situation will be very similar to, as you've seen with a lot of the other ones and some of the other webinars that we've done. You'll be able to actually go into the results page within VIDA, and it will show you that data set and show you the relevant star ratings for it. So you'll be able to click on results. Now, bear in mind, this is going to bring up a different road section that I had selected because, of course, I haven't gone through the full process for that plan. But you'd be able to see that road and what the relevant star ratings are. So these are the 100-meter star ratings. And you'd be able to look at it for that. If you'd calibrated it, the data set, you'd also be able to look at the fatality estimations. And if you provided the countermeasure costs, you'd also look at kind of countermeasures the Safe Roads Investment Plan is suggesting might be appropriate on that road. So that's where I wanted to get you to today, is that very quick demonstration of this is what's possible with the Star Rating for Design's web app. What I'd encourage all of you to do is to go in there, have a play. Remember that we've got these different levels of tools. So if you're brand new to IRAP and star rating, it's probably best to start with a demonstrator to help you understand how the model works and the interactions with it, and cross-check that with your understanding of road safety as well. And then when the screening tool is available, to utilize that as your quick pass over it. And then when you've got that detailed design available, then jump into actually collecting that data within the web app. Feel free to start using that web app. It's now available in there, and we certainly let us know any further feedback that you have on that. What we will be doing is making some further updates and putting in further languages to it over time, so that you'll be able to go in there and look at it in your local language. So this is where I'm going to hand back to Franco to take us through the questions.
Thank you very much, James and Marco, for your presentations. And there are some questions in written, and I think we have some time for the attendees to raise your hands and ask questions if you have. Just raise your hand and I will allocate the microphone usage one by one. In the meantime,
what I can see in the ones that have already been asked, there's one from Stelios.
Exactly.
He said, after you've coded to all segments and you make changes in any of the 100 meters segments, you've got to remember to press the save button. So he asks whether you need to or not. Yes, you have to every time. Otherwise, your changes aren't saved. And if you've made lots of changes, it can be quite frustrating. So what I'd say is be generous with pressing that save button, even if you don't think you've made changes. Regularly press it. It's just like I would do. Maybe I'm just nervous with a Word file. It's quite regularly click save to make sure if something was to go wrong, I don't lose any of those changes. There's another question we've got here from an autonomous one I can quickly answer. Is there a way to upload design files to multiple segments when dealing with the long corridor? At the moment, we've spotted there is that weakness that you can't do that like you were able to do in the original version of it, but that's something we will certainly be addressing very, very quickly. So what you'll see is, I dare say, between now and the end of the year, you'll just see a small update coming through that will allow you to actually say, yeah, this cross section or whatever is linked to multiple 100 meters.
And James, before well, there's no one with the hands raised now, but there's a question about the screening tool, not actually the one that you introduced at the beginning of the meeting. It says, does the tool work in 100-meter sections, or can be of any length for that tool specifically?
So my understanding with the screening tool, and certainly I'm pretty sure that it's in there in specifications, but don't quote me on it at the moment, is that the homogeneous sections can be any length. So that doesn't matter. And then, yep, sorry, back to you, Franco.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much for that, James. There is Jiregna here. Sorry if I mispronounced. With the hands raised. You should be able to speak now. Let's see.
Hello,
Yep. How are
can you
you?
hear me?
Perfectly.
Good. How are you, Franco?
Doing great.
Thank you. I had the chance, the privilege to take many IRAP courses in 2021 through the opportunity you provided for low and middle income countries. I'm from WRI. I'm based in Addis Ababa. And I took this course, Star Rating for Design Essentials of Star Rating. And another thing is we closely work with the World Bank and the IRAP. So it is interesting tool. My question is, how you see the application of how you compare the traditional way of road safety inspection and IRAP. Especially, I feel it is very interesting for highway road safety assessments because it have a uniform cross-section mostly, and it is long, and it requires such tools to analyze the long sections. But urban context, even within 100 meters, you see different things, and I feel walking along the road, registering everything, the situation, the road users, the business, everything, and giving different solutions based on that seems to me very important. So I just ask how you see the traditional way of doing road safety inspection and road safety auditing and using this tool in different contexts.
Yeah, if you want me, I can maybe answer this one. Yeah, that's. I am a road safety auditor in Croatia, and this tool is basically there to support you. So sometimes as a road safety auditor, you might come up with the recommendations that the client or the designer might argue against, saying that no, we don't want to do that. It's too expensive. It's too complicated for us. And then basically what you can use these tools for is to support your argument, saying that, look, what you've designed is according to standards fine, but it's still a two-star road. And then if you add just a small amount of investment, you can actually make this road much safer. And that's how I think in the case study I presented, this is exactly what we did. We showed the designers, we didn't tell him your road is not good. We just show him the numbers coming out from the IRAP assessment. And then he was more than happy to accept the changes, of course, when he got the approvals from the client. In the end, the total increase in the amount of money spent in the cost of the building this road was just almost invisible in the total cost. So the things we added, the investment was large, and just adding some guardrails more to the option to the design and some different road markings and stuff didn't in the end make a big change. And also what IRAP gives you a tool to do the cost benefit analysis. As James was saying, if you calibrate your data sets, you can also do the fatality estimation, and fatality estimation then links with the investment plan that gives you a rate of return, which is again a hard argument for you to have with the investment companies or banks in the end.
Thank you, Marco.
I can
Thanks so
see
much, Marco.
another question about somebody asking, say, if you don't have those design drawings, can you still use the Steinfort Designs web app? Yes, you can still use it. You could use the Google Earth map or the other maps that are already provided in there as your base mapping, and actually just go to the relevant road and trace over it if you don't have the geometry already. Draw it in manually. So this is how we worked a lot in the previous generation of the app, but yeah, it's still certainly supported. Also worth noting that you can also use it for just your standard survey. So you can go in there, draw your road centerline or import your geometry, and then just bring up Google Street View or Mapillary if you've collected those and record the road attributes. At the moment, it's not particularly tailored to support that. So that process isn't ideal. And you'd need to put on that like base scenario, default scenario through all of them and then go through making the changes. But so that's one thing that we've got funding put in place for the next 12 months to actually upgrade the Star of Design web app to allow you to make baseline surveys a lot easier within it. You
Thank you,
also
James.
asked the question about GPS-enabled photographs as inputs on the map. I'm not particularly sure. You thinking top-down photos? And if they're geolocated, yes, you can use those. If you're talking about forwards facing, like going down the road, you could put them in, but it won't be able to use the GPS. You'd actually manually need to put them in there as if they're design files for each relevant 100 meters. So that is possible. The other option, of course, you could upload those into Mapillary, and then they would be available down the road at those relevant locations.
I think that there's a good question by Ahmed as well about the findings on using the star rating for design methodology. It says, have you been in a situation where the design star rating has worse star rating than the baseline?
So actually, this is more common than you would expect. Because actually, often what we will see is part of a road being upgraded, it will be upgraded for different reasons. It won't necessarily be upgraded for safety purposes. It might be upgraded for mobility, or it might be upgraded for, more traffic, that is, or it might be upgraded for speed elements of it. And so what we have seen is they've designed a road and they redesigned a road, but not actually designed it up to the right standard that they've actually changed the capacity to. And so as part of putting more flow on the road, it's actually made it per user higher risk, or they're operating at a much higher speed and they haven't fully compensated that. So this is why it's so powerful actually having it in the designs tool before you even left the design stage, so that it can actually say to you, maybe you haven't got things quite as good as you'd hoped. The other thing I'd also suggest to people is don't just think about the speeds on the day the road's going to open. Think about what the flows and the operating speeds are going to be maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, or whatever the lifespan of that road you want it to be. So that actually then make it so it's fit for purpose for its full lifespan.
Thanks for that, James. I don't know, Marco, if you have any input also to that question.
Yeah, I'm just typing some answers, but still, I would like to maybe comment one of the answers that was already answered by James regarding the standards. That's one of the key things I think we will be doing with this. We are actually showing how standards sometimes don't really reflect the road safety, because although standards are there to ensure that the road is safe, the standards have to be considered on a national level, national scale. So sometimes, the governments cannot place extremely high standards because this would in the end reflect in really high costs on developing roads that might not be used by many users. And that's why it is important to also include the calibration and the FSI estimations to see if your recommendations to go above the standards are actually coming up as something beneficial in terms of savings and the cost benefit. And also bear in mind that most of the standards are 30 years old, 20 years old, 10 years old in the best case. So yeah, we know better. The road safety and safe system approach applications around the world are really focusing on changing the standards. And that's definitely one of the high goals of the tool that has been developed here.
Thanks so much, Marco and James. I don't think we have raised hands anymore.
There's one question in
Yeah.
there to do with uploading KML files. Certainly, there with KML files, what we found is there's certain formats, and not everybody. It's not as consistent a format as we were expecting, and so certain format can't be read in there by the tool. But certainly, if you do have a KML file.
I lost connection.
Yeah, it seems fine now.
Yeah, it seems fine now. Sorry, guys, I lost connection.
And yes, all good, Franco. And what we'll do is, as for out to others, is this recording of this will be made available. I appreciate that I speak at 2 times speed for most people, so feel free to play it back and run it at half speed.
Thank you, James, for that answer. And Marco as well. We are in good time for finishing today's session. Just to let you know, here it's if you need more info, either you can contact James or myself, and I will be happy to bring James and Marco your questions on the matter. We are for sure working on reshaping our star rating for designs learn at your own pace course. There was a question related to the functioning of the actual version of the course, which is related to the version 1 of star rating for design. So we need for sure to refresh that course, and that's going to be coming soon. And about the RAP Knowledge Live events, I think that for 2024 we are going to have one extra event on November, and the date and topic it's going to be shared pretty soon. So I would like to thank you for spending 1 hour with us discussing star rating for designs. We really hope the content was useful for your needs. For sure, the content and the meeting is recorded, and the slides will be shared with you afterwards. And I would also like to appreciate and to thank James and Marco for their time on preparing this session and delivering this session and being here with us as well. So I don't know, Marco and James, if you would like if you have any closing remarks, and otherwise we can finish the session.
I just say thank you everybody for listening, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate all the hard work that you guys do in terms of supporting roads being upgraded and measuring the impact of them to make sure they're done well.
Likewise to James, thank you for joining, and if you have any questions, we are always available.
See you all, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.